rating every single Old School RuneScape update so far. Or, well, almost every single update. You see, I decided to just make a tier list of most updates and just went back and looked at most updates that Old School has had so far. Most of these updates are obviously from 2013, which is when Old School was released, until 2021 as of August. I did not include any before that because, I mean, it's not Old School theoretically speaking. The tier list and updates are going to be ranked based on what they are right now in the game and based on the impact that they had in the game, not what they were when they were released. Updates down here are going to be shown by order of release, so if you want to make specific years or something like that, you can just use this as a sort of guide, I guess. The tier list, however, excludes bug fixes because there were way too many of them, reworks because, I mean, look, I don't want to rate 5 different current updates, it's not cool, right? Limited time events like the mode and, you know, holiday, king of the skill, tournaments, the twisted leagues and things like that. So because otherwise the list would just be bloated for no reason, and quality of life updates that I didn't like, they weren't just that impactful to the game, and that overall, I mean, while they are nice and exist, they weren't easy to explain, right? So with all that being said, just 2 things. Link in description for the people that want to do the tier list yourselves, and timestamps are gonna be in the description as well. So yeah, I mean, let's get into it. So first off, we have the release of Old School. So I mean, obviously, right? Who the fuck doesn't like this game? At this point, it's become better than RuneScape 3. So, or you know, at least it has more players, and I think that's saying something for a game that is supposedly older than RuneScape 3. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons for this, but, you know, bringing back Old School was a really good thing. I just don't like the fact that Jagex kind of started the industry trend of, you know, MMORPGs releasing older servers, even though a lot of the times they don't really need to because the games aren't that different. But hey, we have Old School, I'm happy for it. Next up, we have Nightmare Zone. Okay, so Nightmare Zone, this might be a bit controversial, but it's a bad update. Like, first of all, I don't like minigames where you pretty much have to do them to get the almost best in slot things in the game, or best in slots in the case of Nightmare Zone, where you get points for, you know, certain rings that are best in slot. And at the end of the day, look, yes, it was the first original update for Old School where you fight bosses from quests, but when it came out, first of all, you actually needed to pay someone that only did the 5 quests that the bosses were in Nightmare Zone, because otherwise you couldn't actually choose which bosses to fight, and you could actually AFK for 6 hours, so a lot of people just literally AFK in Nightmare Zone for 6 hours straight to train their combat skills. Obviously, this devalued combat a lot, and yeah, I just don't like it. And at the end of the day, it's a minigame. I don't think that minigames should be that big part of the game as Nightmare Zone is, for example, because the problem with Nightmare Zone is that essentially you kind of have to do it in order to get some items that are important for the rest of the game, even though it's just a minigame, right? So yeah, I think overall it's a bad update, right? It's just a bad update. Like, I don't like minigames, much less when you're pretty much required to do them. Next up, we have God Wars Dungeon. So, God Wars Dungeon. God Wars Dungeon. I think I'm gonna put an overall solid. I mean, it's a solid update overall. It's really good. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's been almost 9 years since the release of God Wars Dungeon, and the items still hold up in price. They hold up in how iconic they are, right? People still seek them, people still kill the bosses, the pets are still really sought after, right? The area itself is really cool, and seeing all the NPCs fight each other, I think that even to this day it's quite a unique thing. So all in all, it's a great update. There's only one slight issue that I have with it, and it's the fact that when it comes to Zamorak and, or I guess, Krill to Saroth and Grador, you can actually get 40 kills quite easily by killing goblins or imps, which are super low level. But when it comes to Kriara and Ziliana, you actually need to kill quite high level monsters, so maybe that could have been a bit better balanced, but outside of that, I think that everything is solid of this update. I think I would even put it at the absolute best, but I don't think it's quite there yet, especially because a lot of it is also old design, but I mean, overall, just solid, right? So, rooftop agility courses. I think this is an overall solid. I mean, look, before this, the way you trained agility was by doing the normal courses or like the superior version of the advanced version of the courses. This literally expanded agility to twice its size and introduced later on staminas and the graceful outfit, which is very good for RuneScape, but at the same time, it's really good to just go around the map. I think that all in all is really the rewards are really good, and the update itself, it made training agility less boring, it gave it better XP rates, and at the end of the day it made it way more streamlined and way more straightforward, and it's really cool to just go around the cities and actually jump through the roofs. Maybe they could, expand that to some PVM related areas so we could see other people PVM and whatnot, which has been talked about before, but hey, maybe in the future. For now, I think that it was really good. It made training agility much more bearable. No one fucking uses Brimhaven agility dungeon line. Let's fucking face it, right? So these pretty much just save the entirety of agility skill. Next up we have Nieve. I mean, Nieve. It's a good enough update. I mean, I think it was a nice middle ground between Vanica and Duradel, especially because Nieve focused more on the Slayer tasks themselves, while Duradel focused more on Slayer tasks that had bosses behind them. So I think it's a nice update, but at the same time, it doesn't really add that much to the game. And in the same week, we had, or in the same updates, we had Slayer Streaks. Um, I mean, honestly, encouragement to do a skill and reward you for doing that skill is exactly what the game needs more of. And, Slayer Streak is exactly that. And I'm thankful it exists because without it, buying a lot of the items and rewards from the Slayer shop was. Not hard, but it was tedious, right? Next up, we have Slayer Helm. I love Slayer Helm, right? It's a pretty good item, specific for Slayer. It's best in slot for a lot of Slayer tasks, but you don't use it everywhere outside of Slayer. You don't use it almost anywhere outside of Slayer, and it's really iconic. It's really cool fashion scape as well, even with a rework. So I think that overall it's really solid. Next up, we have Slayer Rings. Slayer Rings are just good enough, right? More opportunities to get around the game and whatnot, which up until this point, you actually didn't have a lot of teleportation methods, so Slayer Rings actually are a really good thing. Broth Bolts, same thing, like these are basically the equivalent of Rune Bolts, except way more accessible, especially to Iron Man. So I think that it's nice to have them, and it's nice that they work on Kurasks as well, and Turoths, so yeah, they're a good addition to the game, I guess, but again, nothing major that I would consider amazing. Zamorak Hasta. So, Astas. I think that Astas are a good update into the game. For the people who know, essentially, spears are two-handed, and Astas are one-handed, right? So you can actually have a shield slot when using the Asta. Obviously, it loses some of the defensive stats and whatnot, but at the end of the day, just it gives more versatility to certain items, and it makes it so you don't always use the same gear at every boss. Overall, just decent, I guess. Slayer Cave. Ooh, okay, so Slayer Cave is. I have a lot of mixed feelings about Slayer Cave. On one end, it's cool that they made Slayer, and especially certain Slayer creatures, much more accessible to every player. On the other end, it made Slayer kinda bad, because the Slayer Cave was used for like literally 70 to 80% of your entire Slayer task, because the Slayer Cave had a lot, and I mean a lot, of monsters, right? Nowadays it's much better in my opinion. The Slayer Cave doesn't have as many monsters as before, obviously, and a lot of the monsters got thrown around the map, so you actually have to go around the map to do more Slayer tasks, but I mean, all in all, and I also must say, even though it's a cave, I think it's really bland, and I understand that at this point in Old School's life, you had like two J mods actually working in the game, right? So I understand that it's a bit bland, but it could be better thought out in my opinion. And nowadays it's much better thought out, but even then it's not like an amazing thing in my opinion. It's there, I guess. We've played Sword, so I mean, I don't have much to say about this update. I guess it's nice to have an alternative to the spear, but again, it's not that amazing of a thing. Wilderness Rejuvenation. Okay, so I have a lot of mixed feelings about this one as well. I think that overall, I understand that the wilderness is an important part of the game and that decaying is an important part of the game. I just don't think that the wilderness rejuvenation was a good way of rejuvenating the wilderness, right? Because this entire update was basically just putting skilling hotspots and PVM hotspots in the wilderness. It brought out a couple of bosses, it brought out the Odium and basically both wards, the blue and the green one, I forget what they're called, the Malediction and the Odium ward, there we go. It brought out the tyrannical ring or ring of the gods and all of those, the dragon peak and all of that, all in the wilderness to quote unquote encourage PvP, except adding PVM related things or skilling related things to the wilderness doesn't exactly encourage PvP as more as it encourages enter versus entered, I guess. It's I mean, I guess it was a nice effort, but overall I think it was very poorly thought out and very poorly executed. Next up we have Smoke Devils. So they're a nice monster to have. They dropped the Occult Necklace, which gives damage bonus. Overall level 91, pretty high level. And they're nice. I mean, nothing amazing. They're just a Slayer monster, I guess. Then we have Cave Krakens. Same thing. They do drop the Trident, and the Trident was actually really solid way of actually training magic, because up until this point not a lot of people actually used magic. Most people used ranged or melee, so yeah, the fact that the Trident came in with the Cave Krakens, really good. But it's just a Slayer monster, it's not necessarily an amazing thing. The Motherlode Mine, okay. I think it was a nice update. It did give a new way of training mining. I have mainly two issues with it though. Number one, you can get most ores from coal to rune, so it pretty much makes, if you want to and if you like it to AFK, you pretty much train in the Motherlode Mine from level 30 to 99, right? Even if the XP rates aren't that great. So I don't generally like that, and secondly, I don't like that, again, as I mentioned, this was the way to get 99. Even nowadays, it's pretty much one of the main ways to get 99 because it's so rewarding and it's so AFK that it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but I think that overall it was a nice idea and it's good enough to be in the game in my opinion. Next up we have bank tabs. Okay, so look, I love organizing my bank. I really do. So having bank tabs is actually a really good thing. It's one of those updates that is like, when it's not in the game, you really miss it, but now that it's in the game and everyone uses it, it's the type of thing that everyone just takes for granted because they don't understand how bad organizing your bank actually is without bank tabs. So overall, this is the type of updates, quality of life updates that the game needs more of, in my opinion. Next up, we have elite clues. So elite clues were supposed to be, well, elite clues. Yeah, I mean, they were nice updates. I didn't like that they took like between 10 and 12 steps to complete, while art clues take 4 to 6, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, some of the rewards are nice, but nothing to really be super hyped about or anything like that. Yeah, it was nice, I guess. Just an overall nice update. Clan Wars. Okay, so Clan Wars. I mean, it's a nice update, I guess. It did give a permanent, I guess, PvP spot for clans and whatnot, with all the maps and whatnot, but it was nice. Honestly, the problem was that towards later in the lifespan of Clan Wars, more people used it as a way to bank stuff and actually use it as a rejuvenation pool than actually use it for clan wars. But yeah, I guess it's good enough to be in the game. Boss pets. So look, I love these little things. I love pets. Anything that has to do with pets is amazing. Before these updates came out, I don't think any boss actually had boss pets. These are the first ones to a couple of bosses, and then every pretty much other boss got theirs. And nowadays a boss comes out and it's pretty much obligatory to have a pet. And even though there's a lot of pets in the game, certain boss pets are still pretty exclusive, even for the easiest pets like the KVD or the giant mole. So I just love them. Boss kill count, I mean, it's an overall solid update. Being able to track your kill count and being able to flex it through third-party softwares to other people in chat, always a nice thing. Super combat bots. So the reason why I added this here was for one simple reason. I'm gonna put this in good enough because I mean it's a nice quality of life update. But the only reason why I put it here is because these are pretty much overloads. But because Jagex called it something else, people just let it through, right? But like these are just pretty much overloads, right? They're a weaker version of overloads. But come on, people, like at this point in RuneScape, like if you called anything, like if anything was related to RuneScape 3, people didn't want it in the game. Even though this is pretty much overloads, people just allow it to pass because it has a different name, and that's why I actually included it here. Next up, optional randoms. So randoms didn't used to be optional because at the end of the day, it was one of those types of things where, yeah, so optional randoms didn't, like, you didn't used to be able to skip randoms like you can nowadays, because it was basically a botting prevention method. But, as soon as bots evolved to dismiss the randoms themselves, randoms nowadays are optional. One thing that is really cool is that randoms are actually still pretty good, especially for early accounts to do, so it's still worth to do them, while at the same time, if you're actually bossing or something like that and you don't actually want to do them, it's decent. So it was a decent update. Bounty Hunter. Okay, so I think that is a very controversial update, but I'm gonna put it in good enough. Look, I think that personally speaking, Bounty Hunter was the right thing when it comes to rejuvenating the wilderness. I think that Bounty Hunter is what the wilderness rejuvenation should have been or should have focused on. Bounty Hunter was basically just encouraging people to actually fight each other in the wilderness and giving you rewards for doing so. And even though, look, I decided to include it here because I thought that Bounty Hunter was still in the game, but apparently it's removed. I don't know, because like Bounty Hunter has been removed and reintroduced like I don't know how many times at this fucking point. Let's just assume it's in the fucking game. But I think it was a nice idea. Obviously, it was exploited by a lot of people, but at the end of the day, this is the type of updates that the wilderness actually needs. It's updates that reward you for doing PvP in the wilderness with more PvP or easier ways of doing PvP. Right, like PvP weapons and armors and things of the sorts. So I think that overall it was a really good update. Obviously it had a lot of flaws, don't get me wrong, but I think it was a step in the right direction when it came to actually reviving the wilderness in a way. Next up, Ironman Mode. I mean, do I need to say anything? Like, being ultimate, being regular, being hardcore, doesn't really matter. The community found the neat game mode and Jagex just made it official. I think in a way, Ironman Mode gives replayability to an MMORPG. Usually MMORPGs don't have replayability because they are MMORPGs, they are already long games enough as it is. Ironman Mode just makes it so you want to have a second account to play specifically one of these modes. And you can always flex your Helm, so amazing update in my opinion. Corp Beast. Corp Beast. I'm gonna put it in bland for a simple fact that while the spirit shields are nice to be in the game, it was literally a copy from RuneScape 3 or I guess RuneScape 2 way back when. Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of there. Like, it doesn't really detract much from the game. It doesn't have much either. The spirit shields are nice, but then again, like, killing Corp itself is not like an amazing thing. It's one of those group bosses that's not actually engaging to kill, and if you spec it right with Bandas God Sword and Dragon Warhammer, it becomes pretty much a chicken at some point, so Yeah, it's not even like a good thing to kill, I guess. Not entertaining, I guess. Trading post. Um, this is not even in the game anymore, so I'm gonna put it in should exist because it's not in the game anymore. Fuck it. Look, I'm gonna talk about it anyway. Okay. So the trading post was basically the response that Jagex had to people just sitting around and spamming selling lobsters to 100 GP each for 8 hours straight until finally someone bought it off of them. Basically, the trading post didn't even function as an auction house. It functioned as a forum where you could post, I'm selling this or I'm buying this, and people would PM you and you would meet up in game and sell or buy whatever item. It was Zybus, but in game, and a lot of people are like, oh, why use this when Zybus exists? Zybus doesn't exist anymore. I think that only the forums exist by now. So yeah, I guess that was short lived. Anyway, um, at the end of the day, like in theory, it was a really nice update. In practice, it really wasn't. I remember trying to buy a rune axe, and oh my god, was it a fucking nightmare. I DM'd two people, and within 5 minutes, they both fucking log out. It's like they just completely ignored me. I DM a third person, and that person just tells me, oh, I already sold it, I forgot to fucking take out the offer. And then finally, I DM someone else, and they're like, yeah, but we meet up, and I finally buy a fucking rune axe. If for me to buy a rune axe, it takes that fucking much effort, imagine actually buying shit that is actually rare. Obviously, the trading post was just a response for those people that, oh no, but we don't want the GE because it kills the socialization aspect of the game. Theory, amazing middle ground. Practically, it actually didn't fucking work. I would have put it in probably just bad or mixed feelings if it did exist in the game. I don't know why the fuck I included it. Maybe it's because I remember using it and I somehow thought it was still in the game. Anyway, Zulrah. So, the first unique boss to Old School. Zulrah. Hmm. It's gonna go in his feelings. Look, I love this boss because I think it's by far one of the most engaging bosses when it comes to killing it. Yes, it's a bit hard and it's probably one of the hardest bosses in the game when it comes to, the requirements that it has, because it doesn't have a lot of requirements, but in terms of mechanics, it does have a lot of mechanics, right? I think that in mechanics, it's comparable to, the Inferno, at least the final boss of Inferno, like Zuck, or whatever it's called. Jad and whatnot, and it's a really entertaining boss to kill, except it wasn't a good boss to be implemented into the game. Aside the junkiness of it, which I have to make a video about how fucking junky the boss is, the impact in the game was disastrous in my opinion. This fucking boss made it so people got super used to have a just common or like the common drops to be always good, having the consistent amount of GP coming in, when PVM should always be about that rare ticket item, in my opinion. Because the problem with Zulrah is that, this didn't pay for your supplies, they just straight up made you fucking rich, right? I mean, it got to a point where Iron Man were actually killing Zulrah for skilling supplies like, bones and, grapes and sharks and planks and things of the sorts, because it was actually faster to fucking overall grab the supplies through Zulrah than it was to actually do the skills themselves. And I mean, even in 2021, you have people saying that Zulrah is around including uniques, 2 mil, 3 mil per hour, and you have people saying that that's bad because they can no longer earn a bond per fucking hour, right? Even though it's still a fuckload of GP per hour. That's how bad, in my opinion, this boss damaged the game. And as a result, like, as much as I like killing the boss itself, I don't think it was overall good for the game. Next up we have Dragon Defender. I mean, one of those just solid updates. It made an actual guild, a combat guild, actually fucking alive, because, I mean, no one... Like, you use the fucking guild to get the defenders, and after that you really don't use the guild anymore. I just have one problem with this, it's that it's called a defender even though it's a knife. I'm afraid that someday we're gonna release a shield called an attacker. Yeah, look, it's stupid in my opinion, but yeah, whatever. Um, Next up we have free to play. So free to play. I'm gonna have to put it there. And the reason as to why I think that free to play was a transition between this game exists for people that want nostalgia to okay, actually we have a product here that people genuinely give a shit about and we're gonna start taking it way more seriously. Free to play was the beginning of Jack actually taking old school more seriously and actually hiring people towards it. Because at this point you had 4 or 5 people in the team. So I think that in a way, free to play being released was Jagex acknowledging that this actually has a future. And it did. I mean, this update was released in 2015. And well, it's been almost 9 years of old school. So yeah. Next up, we have the Grand Exchange. Oh, okay. So the Grand Exchange was the inevitability to the trading post. I think it's one of the best updates, not just of old school, but of all time amongst every MMORPG. A lot of people wanted the Grand Exchange rather than trading post, but it didn't pass the poll for like it had something like 71 or something like that, and then obviously 2 months later, Grand Exchange is in the game. I think that all in all, it's a really really good thing. The Grand Exchange is the type of update that most MMORPGs should have. If you're new to the game, you're never gonna get scammed by people trying to sell you an item that is way more expensive than it actually is, because you can just go to Grand Exchange and actually check how many items are sold and what price were they sold at, right? Or the average price. So that is actually really good. It prevents a lot of scamming, right? Obviously, it's not perfect. Sometimes there is still scamming going on, but it prevents a lot of scamming from people that just don't know the prices of things. It makes it completely automated, which with the amount of items that Old School has, it's an amazing thing. And I know that one of the main arguments was people saying that, oh, but this will kill the social aspect of the game because it will take people away from West Rock Bank. Yeah, but it took them away to the Grand Exchange. Log into any world in the Grand Exchange, and you're gonna have people there AFKing at the bank. Some of them are not even training anything. Other people are just sitting there talking with each other, right? So I think that at the end of the day, this worry about the Grand Exchange killing the social aspect of the game was just not warranted at all. And if anything, the Grand Exchange makes it so you can sell items faster and buy items faster, so you can actually enjoy the rest of the fucking game rather than just spending 8 hours fucking trying to sell your fucking lobsters to someone, right? And at the end of the day, like, you actually see many more people around Gillanor because, the trading is made so much faster. So I think that overall it's just an absolute amazing update. So next up we have the achievement diaries. Oh, the achievement diaries. And they're a good enough update. I, personally speaking, the problem that I have with the achievement diaries is the fact that I think the achievement diaries should be little tasks in places for you to know more about the game and its places. Like, for example, Lumbridge and Drainer is an achievement that you need to smith a heavy plate body in the sewers from scratch. Because there's a sewers that connects Drainer prison to the Lumbridge swamp, something along those lines, that actually a lot of people don't know exists. A lot of people forget it exists, and some people never really use it. And the achievement diaries pretty much just tell you that, hey, maybe you should explore it a little bit better. The problem is, a lot of tasks don't really do that. A lot of tasks are just, oh yeah, mix this potion. Cool. At the end of the day, like, I think achievement diaries should have been used more to exploration rather than, oh yeah, you trained a skill, now you just have the achievement done type thing. And at the same time, I don't generally like the rewards because some rewards are OP, others are pretty useless, and then it's like the tiering of them is kind of useless as well. Some diaries, you need pretty much elite for them to be worth it, while others, the easy one is actually good and offers good rewards. Like, for example, Ardoin Easy Diary offers you one of the best capes in the game in terms of prayer and re-establishing prayer. It's a cape that is very worthwhile and it's a super easy diary to do. Things like agility shortcuts, where you need elite diaries for them, when in reality you only need like level 60, 70 agility to actually use the shortcut. I think the rewards could have been maybe scaled a bit better as well, but yeah, overall I guess it's nice for it to be in the game. Bonds. Okay. I think bonds were a good update. Look, bonds is a doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. At the end of the day, gold selling will always exist. People trying to scam others will always exist. And I think that bonds is a really good response to it. Why buy gold from a shady gold seller website when you can buy it directly from Jagex? I know that a lot of people are against it because at the end of the day, oh, but it makes the game pay to win. But I mean, the game was already pay to win. You can just buy gold from third parties and use it in the game. Not that I'm advocating for it, keep in mind, but at least with bonds, you don't have to run the risk of actually getting fucking scammed, right? So I think that overall it was a really solid update. Yes, it does put that some skills pretty much turn into pay to win, but it's much better than not, right? Yes, World Switcher. Just this amazing update. I mean, not having to log out and input your data every fucking time you want to switch worlds is just amazing. Again, this is the type of update like Bank Tabs where it's like, people take it for granted now that it's in the game, but if it wasn't there, you would really feel the difference that it wasn't there, right? But now that it's there, most people don't even almost acknowledge that it is. Next up, Resizable Mode. I mean, it was a good enough update, and I really fucking like that I don't have to play on that fucking tiny window anymore. My eyes aren't what they used to be, so yeah, pretty good. Platinum tokens, I mean, Jagex managed in Old School to solve the problem of the spirit shards before they even were a thing, so it was a good enough update. Obviously, I'm not as rich to have them, but they're nice to have. The Music Cave. So the Music Cave is actually really good because it has the air guitar emote, which is the best emote in the game, and there's a little sound that plays when you actually play the fucking emote. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten the music back, but hey, overall, pretty stylish, best emote in the game, what can I say? Next up we have F keys, which made bossing way more easy, and way more reliable for noobs like me that freak the fuck out whenever something is going wrong. F keys, quick switch between inventory and prayer, and you're never dying to Jet again. So yeah, it made bossing much easier and much more modern as well. The Arab Sack, it's a good enough update. I mean, it's the types of those updates that reward you for playing the game and make it a little bit easier, but they don't just make the game into easy escape, right? Yeah, next up, oh, Cerberus. So I actually quite fucking like this boss. Not that I've killed it myself. I think I have like 1 or 2 KC only. If I even do have 1 or 2 KC, I don't know. Regardless, I think that the boss is quite nice. The visuals of the boss are quite nice. Unlike, you know, Smoke, Devil, and Cave Kraken, which are relatively easy bosses, this boss actually has mechanics to it. The Cave Kraken boss and the Smoke Devil boss are just sort of there, and you just damage them and you know, they die, even if the Smoke boss and the Kraken are actually really cool pets. Cerberus actually has mechanics. It provides really good rewards as well in the, you know, crystals to make the Eternals, Primordials, and Pagations. So overall, really cool, and you have the Infernal tools as well. So I think that all in all, the rewards really belong in the boss. The boss has really good mechanics. It's really fun to kill. Yeah, we're all solid. Angler's outfit. So this is one of those where it's like, it's a good enough update. At the end of the day, these are the type of updates that I would wish Jagex did more of. It's like, you don't need the angler's outfit to train fishing, but it's nice if you have. And besides that, it's amazing Fashionscape, and I love Fashionscape. Next up, the Abyssal Sire. Okay, the Abyssal Sire is up there with Cerberus. The visuals are really cool, the area looks really cool. They actually made 4 areas next to each other, so, you know, people wouldn't fucking just crash each other all the time when the boss was released. The pet's really cool, the boss is pretty cool. I mean, in terms of mechanics, I'd rather have Cerberus than Abyssal Sire. Abyssal Sire did do an interesting thing, which is the Unsired that you get, then you can sort of roll it in the drop, in the rare drop table. That was an interesting thing that Jagex didn't do any more of, that honestly I wish they did. more of. Not for every boss, but I think that some bosses is nice for you to get like that unique item and it only drops one, and then like you have this rare drop table that you purely get loot from. And it released one of the coolest weapons in the game in the Abyssal Bludgeon. It's a really fucking cool weapon, and it was the best in slot crush weapon for the time. So a lot of people actually used it, including me, to train strength during Slayer. It was a two-handed weapon, but it was better than using a Dissim. So overall, pretty cool. Maxcape, it's a good update. I mean, when this was released, there were like 150 people maxed, so nowadays obviously that number is much higher, but it's still an iconic cape after all these years, and it's a cape that people still seek. Next up, skilling pets. Look, it's pets. As I mentioned, I love pets, especially for skilling. It is a shame that not every skill has a pet, because some are considered quote-unquote buyables, and as a result, buyable skills don't have pets because the pets are quote-unquote buyable, or whatever the fuck that means, but I love skilling pets. Skillcape Perks, okay. I think Skillcape Perks are pretty solid. They're a pretty solid idea. I mean, it's basically a reward of actually, hey, you got to 99, so here's an actual reward for the skill rather than, oh, you can show off that you have 99, right? And you have a +1 boost, so you can get level 100 or whatever. Essentially, Perks did bring in that it's actually worth to get the capes now. However, two things. First of all, the max cape having all of the perks is a bit what one would call OP. And secondly, obviously I do think that some perks are more OP than others. I remember the flashing cape gave you a fucking crossbow and mithril grapple once per day. The herb cape gave you a pestle and mortar. Like, yeah, really fucking OP. Meanwhile, the crafting cape fucking teleported you to the fucking crafting guild, which has a bank. The fucking construction cape teleported you to your own POH, which after the fucking POH rework, yeah, it's pretty much OP. You need those two capes and you're pretty much set to go in terms of skill perks. So they, could be a bit more well balanced, but overall I think they were a nice idea. Next up, Great Current. Oh my god, okay, so this would be right here if I was judging it when it was released. Nowadays, I'm gonna put it here, honestly. I think that Kourend is actually a really overall solid part of the game nowadays. When Kourend was released, that was the entirety of Zeh. You had 5 houses you couldn't lock in your favor, and each house didn't actually have that much to do. With the Osiris house, you would get a tithe minigame, and you would get the kitchens that give like that invisible boost like the cooking gloves do, and you would get another air punch. Shazin didn't really have anything. I guess you could fight Lizardmen, but Lizardmen Shaman weren't even in the game when Great Current was released. Archaeos had a new spell book and it was decent. Mainly people use it for the prayer method and rune crafting. Pescarelius had fishing anglers, and Lovacange had Blast Mine, which you could essentially get ores from it 10 levels before you actually unlock them. So you could actually, start getting rune ores at level 75 rather than 85, and so on and so forth. It was also better XP than the Motherlode Mine, and overall, to this day, underrated update. I think the people don't realize how cool the update actually is. But overall, it didn't have much to offer. It was super square. It didn't actually have much to do in game. It was super big but super empty. But Jagex stuck to it, kept improving it and improving it and improving it. And I mean, to this day, they're still improving the houses and what content they provide, right? Like, for example, Shazin more intense. Nowadays, they're actually, creating a area that, tells more of the lore than just, oh, here's big tent, right? So I think that overall, it's one of those things in game nowadays that you go to and it feels like it always belonged in game. When it came out though, oh my god, was it underwhelming. Obviously nowadays, the Archaeus spellbook is much better, you have quests in the area, right? You have many more things to do, many more skills, right? You can thieve market stalls and all of that, you have master farmers to thieve, right? You have all of these things, so yeah, overall, Great Current, it's a pretty solid update nowadays. The Lizardmen Shaman, it was a good enough update. It was an enemy boss that had 3 mechanics, pretty much. Yeah, it's entertaining to kill. I don't consider it a complete boss. It's more of a demi-boss to me. The Dragonair Hammer was nice, not gonna lie about that one. Next up, we have Architectural Alliance. So, I mean, it's a mini quest that literally just makes it so you don't lose favor when gaining favor to the houses. I'm gonna put it in bland because, yeah, the quest is bland. You build a statue that's, I mean, spoilers, I guess, but that's pretty much it. Again, it was more of an answer to people that didn't want to lose favor because you couldn't lock it in when Kourend was released. But I mean, to be honest, that should have been an update when Kourend came out, not fixed with a kind of weird mini quest that was. It's not bad, but it doesn't add much to the game anyway. Ban placeholders. Mod Ash worked on this update on his free fucking time, I mean, not his free time. Technically, it was work time, but they can work on personal projects, and his personal project for the game was ban placeholders. Man, this is another of those updates that is like, nowadays everyone takes it for granted and they don't even like realize it exists. But when it didn't exist, let me fucking tell you, it was a nightmare to actually fucking have an organized bank. This shit right here is fucking underrated to this fucking day. At the end of the day, amazing update. This is the quality of life updates that the game introduces. Everyone then, like a week after, takes it for granted that they always existed because they don't understand how bad the fucking game actually was before. This is the type of update that is pretty much invisible in the game and no one actually gives a shit about, but if that update didn't exist, a lot of people would be fucking crying their eyes out of how fucking bad it is to fill your bank with junk just so it doesn't fucking get deorganized. Oh man, bank placeholders, fucking MVP. And next up we have imps dropping clue scrolls. I have mixed feelings about this one. It's nice that you can pretty much just grind clue scrolls nowadays. However, I do feel that it turned clue scrolls from a destructions and diversions type thing that you would get as a reward from, doing some PVM or just skilling or just around the world more to a thing that you can actually grind. I mean, yeah, it's nice that you can grind it, but at the same time, I don't like that you can grind it, especially because of the prices of uniques that has dropped immensely as a result. I guess it's nice. Maybe RuneScape 3 should have one because in RuneScape 3 you do actually grind a lot of clues. In Old School, I don't see a necessity for it, but at the same time, it's in the game. I guess it's nice. Monkey Madness too. So I'm actually conflicted because, like, yeah. Look, I'm gonna look. I loved this quest, right? Man, it was amazing, right? This fucking for the first quest of Old School, because before this you didn't have any other quest. Yeah, I guess you had the mini quest like Architectural Alliance, but you didn't actually have a full-fledged quest. This was the first Grandmaster quest in Old School because the While Geptek Sleeps doesn't exist in Old School, so this was the first Grandmaster quest, and oh boy, what a quest it was! It was an experience and a half. I felt like I was actually going in an adventure again, right? Which nowadays is pretty fucking rare to achieve. The entire fucking quest just amazing, honestly amazing. And then the rewards, dude, being able to fight demonic gorillas and the Zenite jewelry. I do think the Zenite jewelry is a bit OP, which when they pulled sailing, they didn't want that jewelry because it was too OP. Nowadays, most of it is actually in the game. Go figure, I guess. Bring sailing to the game, please. But all in all, like, it's just, I don't know, like, dude, Monkey Madness 2 type of quest, you just fucking do, and it's so fucking solid, honestly. It's so solid. For the first original quest of Old School, they fucking eat it out of the park. It was amazing, honestly. Next up we have Sand Crabs. Sand Crabs, yeah, it was a nice thing. I mean, it did substitute rock crabs essentially, and it makes Zea and Kourend actually, more full of stuff to actually do. And so much so that people actually love AFKing Sand Crabs nowadays. So actually, you know what? overall solid update. You know, just I mean, it brings back the old days of AFKing at rock wraps, right? So yeah, pretty good update. Woodcutting Guild. I'm gonna put these in overall solid. I think the Woodcutting Guild is the type of guilds that we need more in game. The Woodcutting Guild is this nice middle ground between the guild is fucking useless and the guild is too OP. Woodcutting Guild is like sitting in the middle just saying, this guild is just right. You're not gonna be sitting in the Woodcutting Guild to just get 99 woodcutting because it's not worth it to train woodcutting outside of the guild, right? It is worth it to train woodcutting outside of the guild, but at the same time, the guild does provide you enough for your woodcutting needs, even having ints in the basement. So all in all, and you can also trade in the eggs from the bird's nests with eggs for the evil chicken outfit. So all in all, it's a pretty solid update. Catacombs of Kourend. So I think this update was good enough, to be honest. It added a lot of new monsters. It added brutal black dragons with a fucking dragon full helm. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe that's why they removed the dragon full helm from the drop table. But all in all, I mean, it gave essentially it reworked current existing monsters and gave them a new purpose, which was really nice with different versions that are stronger. The only thing I don't like about, I mean, I do like it, but at the same time I don't, which is it completely changed the meta for Slayer. Nowadays, just grab burstable tasks because Catacombs is multi. I do enjoy though that, you know, you would be there and as a result of Catacombs of Kourend you actually have the Arclight and the Shards and the Totem to fight Skotizo, which we'll talk about later. I loved doing Slayer there, honestly. When this was released, this was pretty much my primary place to train Slayer at. So I think it was, and like the entire vibe, for it to be a fucking cave, right? When people were talking about it, I was afraid. Like Jagex was talking about releasing Catacombs of Kourend, and I was afraid I was gonna, like, people were like, oh, it's gonna be like barrows and whatnot. I was like, oh, I'm actually afraid of what the fuck Jagex gonna release. But then they released it, and it's just solid. And even the vibe of the place, it's really fucking solid. And I mean, speaking of Skotizo, I think that it's a nice boss. It's a reward for training in Catacombs of Kourend, and it gives you clues. It's not a very challenging boss because it's not meant to be challenging, right? It's just a boss meant to be a reward for you to train in a place. So overall, really good. So now, oh, Amulet of Eternal Glory. So, I think it's a good enough update, honestly. It's a decent update, honestly. It's nice to have an amulet that doesn't degrade, essentially, or never lose charges. I don't like it that you have to get it through the wilderness, but at the same time, I mean, if you have the jewelry box or if you have the, you know, mounted Amulet of Glory in your POH, you don't even need it, but it's a nice thing that I guess it's nice to have, so yeah, it's there. Master Clues. Okay, so Master Clues. Overall solid. Compared to Elite Clues, Master Clues actually have between 6 and 8 steps. It was actually challenging to do these clues, and while the rewards aren't the best, and some of them are lacking, this update actually brought a lot of other cosmetics to all of the other tiers. And all in all, I mean, this proves right here that people fucking love clues in the game and still do them to this day. Overall, just solid update. Next up, we have Hidey Holes, which came in with the same updates, but just a solid update. I mean, no longer do you have to suffer from having a full bank because it's just, there's a bunch of, you know, clue scroll related items there. Next up, Broken Armor. This was a mainly PvP update, and I think it was a good update, honestly. I think it was a solid update. Basically, what this update did, for the people who know, if you're in a PvP area or in the wilderness and you get killed with, you know, while wearing a torso or a fire cap and things like that, what would happen is the enemy PK would not get anything from it because they are untradeable items. This update made it so if a PK actually kills you, you actually get your items broken and you have to use GP to fix them, while the PKer gets the GP from those items. I think that overall made PKing actually much better because a lot of people would just PK with things like Void and whatnot, and they would never lose any GP when PKing. So I think it's a good update. Elder Chaos Robes. I mean, I think this is a bland update. At the end of the day, it's nice they're in the game, I guess. They're nice for peers mainly. But yeah, they're not amazing by any means. They're just sort of there, I guess. They're not bad, but you know, I don't think they're amazing either. Close Scroll Reward Casket. So I actually didn't name this one right, because basically what this update is so you don't actually get any caskets before you actually complete the clue. Because before, what would happen when doing clues is you would get a casket, and then you would open it and oh, there's a clue scroll inside. Nowadays that doesn't happen anymore, and you actually, you only get a casket once you get the reward. So this shit right here, this shit was a lifesaver in my opinion. It genuinely tilted me when I was just fucking doing a clue. Oh, finally, I got the reward. And then I would open it, oh, it's not the reward. Especially when you're in the wilderness. Sometimes you're running away and you just want to open a casket to see if the reward is anything useful. So, you know, if it's not, you just drop it or you just let yourself die or whatever. This actually, a lot of times it would be like, oh, you would just open it and oh, it's another clue. And then you would lose the clue because clues aren't saved for some reason. So, cool. Last man standing. Ooh, okay. Last man standing. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the idea was nice. The update can be really fun. It got overrun by dumbasses that, you know, just try too hard to the point of actually cheating and whatnot. So I think that at the end of the day, yeah, I think the idea was nice, but again, like I think that people mainly ruined the update more than the update ruining itself. It's still a fun update, but yeah, it's not exactly the thing that there's a lot of people playing it anymore or whatever, so I guess just sort of there nowadays. House Viewer, so okay, this is a solid update. Again, Mod Ash coming in clutch with the House Viewer. So if you don't know what House Viewer is, essentially what you can do with House Viewer is basically you can actually open a menu to rotate rooms and actually delete rooms and whatnot, and it makes it much fucking easier to actually organize your house. This shit, again, it's one of those updates, just like, you know, bank placeholders and all of that, that at the end of the day, if it didn't exist, it would be a pain, but now that it exists, people don't even realize it exists, because it should be like that, right? So, lifesaver. From the same update, we have the Superior Garden. I think it's a nice update. It does have, you know, a ring in your POH, a completely OP tool that makes elite desert diaries completely fucking useless, and whatnot. It's nice from what it offers, you know, a spirit tree and all of that, and it makes your POH more useful as a whole, but at the same time I do feel that the pool is a bit too OP to the point where nowadays it's pretty much a requirement of you actually having to, you know, just waste a lot of GP training construction. You build your house and you're ready for PVM, which I don't necessarily enjoy. And Achievement Gallery is the same thing. You have an altar, you have a jewelry box and all of that, and at the end of the day, while it's nice and it makes it really useful to use your POH, at the end of the day I think it makes it too centric on the POH. Because again, like, construction is viable. I mean, if you're gonna fucking not release skilling paths for buyable skills because, oh, people can just buy them, then why the fuck did you give them the opportunity to just buy their ability to PVM well, right? Because that's what these two things came to do, is just, hey, you throw a lot of GP into construction, you train construction to a high level, you build all the cool shit, and now that's pretty much a PVM hub right there, and you just bought it, right? So all in all, yeah, it was nice, but whatever. Family Pass, I mean, it was just an update where you pay like 500k to make the smithing gloves, the cooking gloves, and the chaos gloves all into one, so you could actually, you know, not have to change them all the time. So I guess it's nice, doesn't add much to the game, doesn't detract much from it, it's just a bland update. The Winter Dot, so it made pretty much fire making pretty fucking useful, and at the end of the day, it's nice, it's a sort of nice boss, I guess. At the end of the day, the rewards were a bit OP, and that's why the, you know, fucking drop table got a bit nerfed. But even today, I think it's a bit too OP for what it offers. I do think that it did set a pretty bad precedent in the game of every skill needing a skilling boss, which I don't think it's true. I think it's nice to have Winter Thought because fire making was so useless. With the Winter Todd is actually, it made it way more useful, and even then, like, you don't even just use fire making, you can use flashing as well, agility, which is pretty fucking useless, but still, I guess you can get agility XP in between kills. It highly devalued fire making, that's for sure, because a lot of people have 200 mil. I mean, I still have 1,000 kills, over 1,000 kills at this point, and I'm still like top 3,000, and I have to kill the boss in like fucking years at this point. So I think that all in all, I mean, it's a fun update. I just don't like the fact that a lot of people, because of it, are asking for even more. Skilling bosses as a result. Obviously, later on we would have more skilling bosses, but I think that compared to Winter Todd's drop table is just far too good, and I don't think it should be that way. But yeah, I think it's a nice update. I'm glad that it's in the game at the end of the day. Next up, Slayer Superiors. This is a solid update overall. I really like it. I mean, just goes to show how much the community likes Slayer, and at the end of the day, it brought the Eternal Gem. It also brought the stuff, the death stuff and whatnot. I forget exactly which stuffs, and the imbued art. Oh yes, the imbued art. Pretty much a potion, a limited potion for magic. So overall, I think they can be quite fun to kill, and yeah, I mean, it's just a solid update. I think it's a good update. I mean, obviously nothing amazing, but it does expand the free-to-play activities, especially because if you're a free player and people tell you to go kill Eel Giants because it's a popular training spot and then you get a key and you get rewarded for doing the content, you feel pretty good as a result. Next up, Aurania Altar. I think solid. I mean, look, rune crafting just needs more methods, and now you have the Archaeos rune crafting method, you have the normal rune crafting, and you have the Aurania Altar, which is basically that altar where you go through the chaos wizards and warriors and all of that, and then you craft a random amount of each rune that you can craft. And pretty solid XP rates. They're nice, I guess. Nowadays they did nerf the pure essence running, so that's nice, I guess. But yeah, overall it's a nice place. It's a nice update. It's a good alternative to train rune crafting, especially at earlier levels, because until you unlock Archaeus rune crafting, oh boy, rune crafting can be really dull. So I think that Aurania actually just speeds things up a little bit more, and it's real nice. Next up, Chambers of Zarek. Yeah, I'm gonna put this in. It's an overall solid update, quite honestly, and at the end of the day, it was hype as well. People really enjoyed it. It still holds on to this day. I do think that some of the rewards were a bit OP, especially that Tebow was a bit too OP in my opinion. But overall, it's super entertaining to actually do the dungeon, go through it. I have one KC. I don't actually run it because fuck me, I guess. I don't like PVM, I guess. But overall, everyone was hyped. The rewards were really cool. It was, it was basically Gold Wars dungeon all over again in a way. And it was really nice to see. So Chambers of Zarek did a really good job, and it looks pretty nice. The dungeon itself looks pretty nice. So yeah, next up we have Misthalin Mystery. So this is a Halloween quest that was made permanent the next year because people like the quest so much, and I think that fuck it. Look, I'm gonna argue towards it. For the people who don't know, Misthalin Mystery is probably the quintessential RuneScape quest. Rather than all of those MMORPG quests where, oh, go and this item to the other NPC or go kill 10 chickens. This quest is literally a mystery. You have a lot of puzzles, you're actually going on an adventure to begin with, and it's essentially a free-to-play quest that doesn't have requirements, so if you're a new player and this is one of the first quests that is presented to you, you don't expect a lot from the rest of RuneScape quests, and honestly, this showcases how RuneScape quests are so different. Honestly, up until this point, yes, Smoky Madness was a really amazing quest, but Misthalin Mystery was a novice quest, no requirements, that is actually super entertaining to do, and I think it showcases exactly how good RuneScape quests actually tend to be, rather than, you know, compared to other MMORPGs at least. So I know I'm gonna fucking leave it in the tier. Fucking just deal with it if you don't like it. Next up, silver jewelry. I think that it was solid. Giving purpose, because gold jewelry already had a purpose if you enchanted it. Silver jewelry now has a purpose as well. Obviously, the purposes are not as strong in my opinion as most gold jewelry, but it's nice. It's just it makes the game feel more complete. It completes the skills even further because it makes them more useful. Overall, just solid update. You know, can't expect much more from it. ShiftClick Drop. Okay, so this update right here was honestly solid. The thing about this, and the reason why this is even in the game, is because people used to use mouse keys and AHK and all of that, until some people started abusing AHK to actually have unfair advantages, and, you know, they swore that they didn't actually abuse AHK, and then they had. I mean, some had. Some people also got banned that didn't actually abuse it. But as a result, Jagex was like, you know what, we're gonna ban AHK for everyone, so there's no gray area, there's no, oh, but I actually didn't cheat, there's none of that, right? And they had the option to actually shift-click drop into the game, which, ironically enough, tends to be more OP than AHK or mouse keys. Shift-click drop is actually more OP than those things, but I mean, overall, hey, look, if it solves the problem, I don't care for it, right? And I've used it before as well. It makes 3-ticking especially and every tick manipulation method much easier. Do I tick manipulate a lot? No, really, but, you know, it's just overall a solid update, I think. Wilderness Slayer. Look, I understand that mentality of I risk, I reward, but let's fucking face it. People that do Wilderness Slayer are not gonna be risking that much to begin with, right? If anything, they're gonna be wearing D-Hide or something along those lines. So I guess it's nice. When this came out, it was nice to actually give especially Ironman players a way of actually getting the rune pouch, because for some odd reason the rune pouch was in the Bounty Hunter store. So you could get the emblems through Wilderness Slayer to eventually buy the pouch. But overall, it's not that great of an update in my opinion. I mean, it's nice, it gives more points, risk reward, I guess, but it really just makes you lose time more than actually making you risk anything at all. And it's one of those things where it's like, we want to revive the wilderness, and then they just throw some PVM related update because PVM is the most popular activity in the game. Not that I understand it too much. Next up, Client of Kourend. I think that this is an overall solid quest. It's not like an amazing quest by any means, but it's a novice quest that essentially starts the lore of Kourend and Ze as a whole. As a result, I quite like it, honestly. Again, it's not like amazing or anything like that, but yeah, it also makes you discover Ze and sort of gives you a little bit of a... I already knew it because, you know, I visited multiple times since release, but for new players, can be a good, like, tour of the town while actually doing interesting stuff with the lore, rather than just, oh, go speak with every NPC in town, because, yeah, we can be asked to actually design a good quest around it. Next up, Diverse Tension. So, for the people who know what this update right here is, Diverse Dungeons is basically them grabbing the Slayer Cave, a lot of the creatures, and actually just throwing them around the world. I think it's a good thing. I know that a lot of people didn't like it, because now you actually have to travel around the world for Slayer tasks, but it's really cool, and it gave us cool places like the Chasm near Shazian, right? The Kraken Cave near Pescatori's thingy, the Smoke dungeon south of Castle Wars. So overall, I mean, it expanded the Taverley dungeon, for example, with the dragons, and all of that. Like, I think overall, the monsters actually being split and not just all stuck into a cave. And actually, you know, when doing Slayer, you have to travel around the world. It encourages you to do other updates around the game, to unlock shortcuts and things of the sorts, and teleports to actually, you know, have access to those monsters. So I think that overall, it was the right choice to do, and it added, you know, all of the caves just do look really nice. Especially that Chasm of Fire, it looks really nice. If you haven't gone there, I would highly recommend, because it's a really cool place. Eternal Sledgehammer. I mean, just like the Eternal Amulet of Eternal Aura. Same thing essentially. It's like, yeah, it's nice that you have a Sire ring that doesn't degrade. It's nice that you get it through superiors. So you get it through Slayer, Force Slayer, or just a little nice thing that you don't necessarily require to have. It's just overall nice updates. The Inferno. So, the Inferno, the sequel for the Fight Caves. This is one of the best updates that the game has ever had in terms of PVM. Did I complete it? No, but look, the cape looks sick as hell. More Rack. I don't know if it's an I or an L. Actually, is a decent expansion to the Tsar city, and man, while the Inferno Challenger and challenging, it's an overall nice update. I remember watching streams saying which one was gonna, like, which streamer was gonna be the first one to complete it, and then Wooks just comes in and just snipes the fucking title. It was nice. I mean, after Wooks, a lot of other, actually a lot of people completed it in the same day, which was like 2 days after the update. I think this was the first update where people didn't complete it day of release. And I mean, overall, the cave just looks so fucking sick, and essentially, Jagex somehow managed to recreate the prestige that the Fire Cape had in today's standards with the Inferno. So overall, it's an amazing update. Next up, we have Mining Guild expansion with the Amethyst thingy, Runite rocks, and all of that. I mean, it made. You know what? I'm gonna put it in solid because it made essentially Mining Guilds just like the Woodcutting Guild. You don't need necessarily to be there to enjoy mining or like take the most out of mining, but it's a nice place to mine at. The Fishing Guild expansion. It's a bad expansion. Look, the only reason why I say it's a bad expansion is because the fucking update called it an expansion, and then all it fucking did was added minnows, which are like these little creatures in a platform that you need angler's outfit and a certain fishing level to go to, and the fishing contest quest completed to go to, and essentially they are creatures that you then exchange for sharks. That's it. That's the entire fucking expansion. I guess you do have a +7 invisible boost as well, but honestly, like, it's about the plate not because the minnows and changing for sharks is bad, but because for an expansion, adding a platform with one fishing method is just not good enough. I mean, at this fucking point when the Cabos Lowlands came out and that update where you essentially end with the eagle, that is more of a fucking fishing expansion than this was, right? That's why I'm gonna put it in just bad. Master Scroll Book, I mean, it's a nice thing to not have fucking 1,000 teleport scrolls, different teleport scrolls in the bank, and it's really nice to actually do clue scrolls. So, yeah, the Championscape, it's a solid update, honestly. Yeah, it's mainly cosmetic, but look, it looks good. Okay, the Fashionscape is on point, and I quite like the Fashionscape. Bon Voyage, it's a bad. Look, this quest was the introduction quest to Fossil Island, and it's literally build a boat, pilot it to the island. That's it. Right? Building a boat is not that interesting either way, just go and get supplies and yeah, that's the boat built. And then piloting the boat, I failed at the same time because I didn't understand how the interface worked. And then during the second time, I didn't need to do anything and I still completed the quest. So yeah, it's not a good update. It's not a good quest. Fossil Island. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this one. I think I was so excited for Fossil Island because it was exciting, right? And then when Fossil Island was actually released, to say that it was underwhelming, I think it's an understatement. It didn't have a lot of content. I mean, I guess it did have a lot of content, but a lot of it was just not relevant enough, and it wasn't that great. Honestly, I got so disappointed with Fossil Island, and I guess it's nice to be in the game, but for all the promises that Jagex made, it's just not that good of an update in my opinion. Make all menu. It's a solid update, honestly. It made most menus actually consistent, which is a thing that I fucking love in games. Is shit to be consistent rather than a menu you need to right click and make X and then choose how many you need to make just to make the entire inventory, while others you just click and they make it automatically. At least with this menu, like, consistency in the game, and I fucking quite like it. Next up, we have Grotesque Guardians. I think they're good enough. I mean, they're a fun boss to kill. Unfortunately, because they are I do quite like that a lot of the times the Slayer bosses that you get are bosses that are pretty much superior versions or boss versions of already existing Slayer creatures. That is actually quite nice. I do feel that more of these bosses should be required to have Slayer tasks on though, or either none of them should, because having some bosses where you need Slayer tasks while others you don't is a bit iffy. But at the end of the day, like, obviously Gargoyles level 75 Slayer, so obviously the boss isn't that hard to kill, and at the same time the rewards weren't that great, and to this day they aren't that great. So while the pet is nice, outside of the pet you don't have much reason to actually do this boss, which is a shame because I do think that the top of the tower is actually really nice looking, and again the bosses can be quite fun. Next up we have Queen of Thieves. Honestly, this is just bland. The reason why I created this tier to begin with is because of this quest. So this is a Z quest that gives lore and background to the quest, but if I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't remember a single thing from this quest. I think that the only thing I remember is the fact that you murder someone of the platforms. I think that's it, because I don't recall anything else. Like, it's I understand that at this point Jagex wasn't that great at making novice tier quests, which is this is supposed to be, because it gives you a memoir page to teleport around Kourend and whatnot, and give a bit more background to the area itself, like, you know, in the same vein of like a Soul's Bane and stuff like that. Quests that essentially are in an area, but they're not exactly connected with the main plot thread, I guess, if you call it that. But man, while a Soul's Bane is memorable, this one is just not. And at the same update, Deaths of Despair, same thing. I quite honestly, I don't even know which quest this is. I know I've done it because I did both quests the same day they came out. I have no fucking idea which quest it is. I don't remember, like, there's supposed to be one for each house. I think that this is Pescarelius. This is maybe Zidius, I think. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's there, I guess. Next up, we have Mage Arena 2. Actually, really solid. Again, if the Inferno was the sequel to the Fire Cave or the Fight Caves, Mage Arena 2 is the sequel to Mage Arena. It setups in or steps up in the same way. It's really, the bosses are really cool looking. And yeah, it's in the wilderness, which I don't necessarily enjoy that much, but overall the bosses do fit the wilderness. The quest itself does fit the wilderness, and the new capes look absolute sick. And they are in tune with the old capes as well, which is the best part. The new capes aren't just sick, they actually seem like they are an upgrade of the old capes as well, right? So all in all, pretty fucking solid update. Next up we have the Revenant Caves. This update shouldn't exist in the game. I don't even remember if it was fucking pulled into the game or not, but I think that a lot of people, when this was pulled, I think that a lot of people wanted the old Revenant Caves with, you know, the PvP armors and weapons, rather than none of the weapons passing the poles, none of the armor passing the pole, the Revenant Caves just coming in, being far too much GP, and then like straight up GP into the game, right, because of a lot of alcohols. And nowadays, clans are literally fucking just guarding the caves. And to this day, this is still a fucking problem. Jagex hasn't been able to fucking solve this thing. I was reading through the updates and Revenant Caves. Like, Jagex has tried to rework this shit so many times. The truth be told, just fucking delete them from the game. No one likes this fucking thing, right? Again, this was supposed to create a hotspot for PKers. All it did was create an hotspot where clans could pretty much get many of PVMers that wanted to complete the collection log from it. Not a good fucking thing. Corsair Curse. This is a quest that, I mean, it's an S quest. It's a novice quest to unlock the Corsair Cove back in the south of Felderpils. It also made it so, Felderpils don't just end in a void like it did before. It's a decent quest. It's not like amazing. I do remember some things here and there from it, contrary to these two quests at least. It's not challenging, but yeah, it's the quintessential free-to-play quest, I guess. And Corsair Cove, same thing. I mean, it's nice that's in the game to like, and it's nice that it feels that it should belong in the game, but overall, yeah, it's I guess decent, right? Dragon Slayer 2. Now the question is, with the Grandmaster Monkey Madness 2 quest, does Dragon Slayer 2 equate to it or not? And quite honestly, I don't know. I'm gonna put it that. Look, at the end of the day, the quest was epic, right? It felt just like with Monkey Madness 2, it felt like I was going on an adventure again, which I did with the original Dragon Slayer. It took me 2 or 3 days to complete the original Dragon Slayer. So, Dragon Slayer 2 promised, and it fucking delivered. This was a quest and a half. It was really, really, really nice, and even if the final boss sometimes does have 1 or 2 bugs, overall, it's nice. It's an epic, to say the least, and yeah, I do wish, however, that there were more quests building up to Dragon Slayer 2. Unfortunately, it just goes from Dragon Slayer to Dragon Slayer 2, and it's like in Dragon Slayer 2 you get all the lore. So, yeah, maybe Jagex needs to start making more quests to build up future Grandmaster quests rather than just dropping Grandmaster quests. And the Mythic Scape looks pretty cool. You have the Mythic Guild. It's just overall it's really cool. You also have access to Wrath runes as well. So yeah, you have new spells, the Wrath spells, the Surge spells. I think that's what they called. So overall, all in all, really fucking good quest, right? With really good rewards. I mean, even if the rewards didn't exist, the quest itself is fucking amazing by its own. And then it also unlocked Vorkath, which it's a solid boss. I mean, it's the sequel to Zulrah. It's not as hard to learn. It's not as hard to kill. There's overall less risk. And I mean, the only problem I have with Vorkath is that you needed to nerf Zulrah drop table to release more bosses into the future, but Vorkath, it's easier to kill, but it provides better loot than Zulrah, so I think that overall, in terms of, scaling, not a good thing, but yeah, and then its unique rewards are, I guess, other than the assembler, which is guaranteed with the ad at 50 KC, so thank fuck for that, because I had to fucking go like 270 something KC for the KQ ad, so that wasn't nice. So it's a nice boss and whatnot. It's nice that you also fight it in the quest to sort of get ready for the post boss quest, or post quest boss rather. It's just overall solid boss. Next up we have leather shields. It's a good update. I think that at the end of the day, leather shields feel like they have always been in the game because of how well they actually fit into the game. But they're not like, groundbreaking or anything. They're not bad. They're just sort of there, I guess. Tale of the Righteous. This was the sequel to Client of Kourend, right? I think the Tale of the Righteous is. I think it's a bit bland, truth be told. For being the sequel to Client of Kourend, I think that it didn't exactly answer many questions, and killing a shaman, a lizardman, or a corrupt lizardman rather. Yeah, that's pretty much the entire quest. It's pretty much shit. I think it's bland at the end of the day. Briofita, which I don't know if that's how you type it. Was that how I typed it? Yeah, this is an A, Briofita, not an E. So I fucking misspelled that. Well, it's another free-to-play boss. I guess it's nice. It does drop really nice fashionscape looking stuff, and you have the chance to save nature runes. So all in all, it's a good free-to-play boss. It rewards you for killing moss giants and training moss giants, which is again a very popular spot, and it actually provides a good reward that is actually useful, even if not that much to end game. So yeah, it's overall nice, I guess. A Taste of Hope. I think it was a nice quest. It was a nice build up. It did give a pretty good teleport, so now you can actually teleport around fucking Mauritania, which is nice. Nothing to write home about, in my opinion. It wasn't like that amazing of a quest, but it did do a very good job of actually building up to maybe an eventual Grandmaster quest, you know? So it's a good update, I guess. Slepe or Sleepe or I don't know if fucking pronounce. Let's not turn this into another fucking Ardoin situation, but it's a nice town. Yeah, just completing Mauritania, you know, to avoid the just black barriers and whatnot into the void. It's really decent, and maybe, you know, a future update will be released there that it's interesting. Theater of Love. I have never completed this, even with the story mode. I should probably, but I think that overall this is in tune with Chambers of Zarek. I think they're in the same thing. It was a really big PVM related um, update, and as a result, you know, people loved it, and people still grind it to this day. And the rewards look fucking sick. They're really useful. You know, and look, the scythe is comparable to the fucking Tivo. That's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, making friends with my arm. Look, this quest has Ash's two favorite things: farming and trolls, and the quest was made by him. That's it, right? It's a good quest. It's again made by Ash, and the rewards are basically the rewards make navigating the world easier, but they're not required to navigate the world. And those are the type of rewards that I really enjoy from quests, right? Either quests to just add content into the game, or that make navigating the game easier as a reward for actually taking the time out to actually do the quests, right? As a thank you type thing. So overall, it's just it's a really good quest. Honestly, you should do it if you haven't already. Portal Nexus. Overall solid. It's a shame that it hasn't come earlier, because I have like 10 fucking rooms with different teleports. So thanks for that, but I think, you know, actually collapsing all of those teleports into one fucking room was obviously the next fucking step, and it should have come earlier. Collection log. I really like collection log. It makes the game be a bit more diverse and actually add more playstyles to the game rather than just the old PvP, PvM skilling style. Now you actually have completionist style as well. Obviously, for a lot of people, it's gonna be hard to complete it because, yeah, contrary to RuneScape 3, Old School doesn't work as fast, and as a result, completing the collection log is gonna take way more time in Old School than it will ever be in RuneScape 3. Next up, Cabos Lowlands. Just a solid update. Honestly, again, completing Zaya and actually having more than just Kourend in Zaya is really exciting. And I mean, overall, between Mount Karun or I don't know how to fucking pronounce it, the lake and the tiny city overrun by Lizardmen. It's a really nice plan. Like, it fits into the game, it fits into the vibe of Zaya, and they've done a really good job with it. I think that Cabos just belongs into the game. It's like it feels like it was always into the game to begin with. So, just overall solid update. Farming Guild, it's a solid update. The only problem that I have with the Farming Guild is that it's far too OP in my opinion. Like, the Farming Guild is really OP compared to other guilds in the game. but it does provide a lot more content than most other guilds do. So just overall update. Konar. As I have mixed feelings about Konar. At the end of the day, like I do enjoy this concept of having a Slayer Master that tells you specifically an area to kill a Slayer monster on. However, I'm not a huge fan of having a specific Slayer Master to do that. I think, personally speaking, that should be a thing available for every Slayer Master at a increased reward chance and whatnot, or maybe more points or something like that. And again, the fact that Konar actually does give more points, even though one of the rewards for actually doing the tasks in a specific area that Konar tells you to do is the keys, the brimstone keys for the chest to get extra loot. So I don't understand why you get extra points for it as well. So I think that at the end of the day, yeah, it's a nice thing to have in the game. Overall, I wouldn't have released the new Slayer Master just to come up with this concept, personally speaking. And the Alchemical Hydra, which came with the same update. Honestly, I have mixed feelings about Alchemical Hydra as well. The problem with Alchemical Hydra is the fact that, again, just like Zulrah, it's a really fun boss to kill, and again, it's much, much easier than Zulrah, but the drop table is far, far too generous in my opinion, and the fact that you can only kill it in a Slayer task is also not something that I'm a huge fan of. And then again, like, it drops too many alchables in a time where the game really did not need any more GP to come into it. So I think that overall, I'm not a huge fan of its drop table. I'm not a huge fan of the impact that it had in the game. But the boss itself is really fun to kill, so it's like I'm kind of torn on it existing or not. And the unique rewards, I guess, are nice, but then again, like, most people that kill Hydra are not gonna kill Hydra for its unique rewards. They're gonna kill Hydra for the common drops because the common drops are so good. And essentially, the situation with Zulrah is just repeated. Which, look, Zulrah, I can even then somewhat forgive it because at the end of the day, it was the first boss they did that at. But Alchemical Hydra is the third boss they do that at. Right? At least with Vorkath, you need an entire quest that is really late game, right? The boss at least drops things related to itself that aren't so detrimental to the game. But with Hydra, I don't think there was a necessity, right? Like, the first time, whatever. The second time, look, I'll let it pass. The third time, like, come on now. Next up, Forsaken Tower. I actually quite like this quest. I think it's a nice quest. It was basically the Lovakinch version of the Queens of Thieves and Depths of Despair quest. It was basically an entire quest around fixing a tower, and it had a lot of puzzles, which I quite enjoy. And the tower itself is quite a nice place, visually speaking, to be in the game. So I quite like that quest. And then Ascent of Arceus, it's another blend quest, just like these two. It's I don't know, like, maybe Jagex needs to learn again from the godlike quest that is Misthalin Mystery, to make low-level quests, because all of these are like low-level quests, are introductionary quests to Zaya, but they're just bland at the end of the day. X marks the spot, same thing. It introduces people to Clue Scrolls while introducing Zulrah as well, which I guess it's nice, but at the end of the day, first of all, I don't think that a lot of people are fans of changing the inn, changing the house in Lumbridge to a inn. It's, I don't know, it's just a bland, I guess, quest. Beginner clues, so I think they're a good update. At the end of the day, they added more stuff to the game. For all tiers, they added a new tier of clue. I personally think that beginner clues weren't needed in the game. I think that easy to master, like the 5 tier of clues were good enough, but I guess beginner clues also came into the game, and so did the Mimic, which the Mimic, honestly, it's an update that is solid. It's a boss for Clue Scrolls that you get a chance sometimes to get some extra loot. You have a chance to fight it if you want, you don't need to. So it's an overall solid, and yeah, it's something that should have come into the game on its side. The only thing that beginner clues have that it's nice is the mole sleepers, which is a really, really nice fashionscape thing. Other than that, I guess it's there. Stackable clue scrolls, I fucking love this. Just being able to fucking stack clues and opening them all at the end of the stage, it's nice. It's fucking nice. I don't even know why it took so long for them to come into the game. Next up we have Lauren chests. I don't know, I think it's a better play, to be honest. It's, again, that thing with the Wilderness Slayer, the Wilderness Rejuvenation. It's like, oh yeah, let's have content into the wilderness for people to go. And then it added Dagon Eye robes, which are pretty iconic robes in RuneScape 3 because of a certain quest that I'm not gonna spoil. Which here are just behind a chest that you have to do Wilderness Slayer for. Again, just like with Alchemical Hydra, look, first time I'll let it pass, second time I'll let it pass, third time, fuck no. Fourth is dungeon. I think that overall this is a good dungeon. Honestly, again, it's the type of thing that you want. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put this in solid because at the end of the day, it makes Zea feel more complete, right? It makes it like you're actually exploring Zea and you stumble upon a dungeon. The little mini quest in the dungeon is also quite nice. So I think that all in all, it's fucking solid dungeon. And then next up we have Sarachnis, which, yeah, it's a good enough boss. It's a good source. It was more of a boss for it to be a source of Red Spider eggs than anything. And overall, yeah, the boss looks nice. It's good, I guess. Song of the Elves. So there's this quest stand with Monkey Madness 2 and Dragon Slayer 2. I don't think so. Personally speaking, while it is an amazing quest, I think that, first of all, again, it lacks the build up, like many fucking Grandmaster quests do apparently in this fucking game. But at the end of the day, yeah, I don't think it's as memorable as Monkey Madness 2 and Dragon Slayer 2 were, and maybe it's because I did it not day of release, because Monkey Madness 2 and Dragon Slayer 2, I did both of them day of release. Song of the Elves, did I actually finish it already? I don't even know if I finished it on my main or not, but regardless, it's a nice quest, sure, but like in a way I don't find it as memorable as the other two, right? And maybe it's because, again, I wasn't here when it was released, but yeah. Next up we have Prifddinas. Yeah, it's a nice place. Yeah, it has its merits. It's not as OP as RuneScape 3, nor good looking. It does fit into Old School. And then again, like, maybe if I went to Prifddinas day of release, it would have been different, but I have Prifddinas. I've had Prifddinas in RuneScape 3 for like 3 years at this point. And compared to RuneScape 3, it's just not as, like, amazing, right? RuneScape 3 does all of these quests to build up Prifddinas, and then it's like this, oh, the Crystal City and all of that, and then it's actually fucking made of crystal, right? It's just quite mind-blowing. But then in Old School, it's just like, compared to RuneScape 3, it's not as good, I guess, but at the same time, it's not as OP, which I am glad that it's not as OP. And then we have the Gauntlet being released. It was basically dungeoneering without, the skill behind it. I do think that it falls a bit short. I think it's a solid update, but it does fall a bit short when it comes to the dungeoneering without the skill, because it's very, very simple compared to dungeoneering, but I guess it's nice. Zalcano, I don't know, I have my mixed feelings about Zalcano. As I said with Winterthought, I don't think every skill needs a skilling boss, and while Zalcano is more towards it being a full-on skilling boss rather than specifically a skill boss for a specific skill, at the same time, again, drop table, far too rewarding in my opinion. Training a skill through killing a boss should never be the main objective of a boss, right? When I'm killing Zulrah and I'm getting 20k XP per hour in magic and ranged, I'm not killing Zulrah to gain XP, right? I'm killing Zulrah to make GP, or maybe get the pet if the fucking boss wants to give it to me any day now. And Zalcano and Winterthought are basically, you're more training the skills and getting rewarded as a result rather than actually, killing a skilling boss, right? So I guess it's nice that it's in the game, but overall I'm not a huge fan of it. Adventure paths. I actually think that adventure paths are a very solid update. For the people who don't know what adventure paths are, basically when you start the game you have an NPC that gives you like little quote-unquote quests of like, get level 5 fishing and I'll give you some bait and a rod, or get level 5 strength and I'll give you a iron scimitar or something like that and some GP. At the end of the day, while adventure paths did not exist back in our days and you just got thrown into the world to explore it, I think that by today's gaming standards, it's a nice thing for new players. I do have a problem with it though, because at the end of the day, the problem that I have with it is I'm kind of afraid that if a player does all adventure paths and then it's like, oh, there's no more, and then they just quit the game because, it just essentially take away the direction from them. So I do wish that the adventure paths were something more like RuneScape 3, where you actually just choose a path towards an unlock or something like that, and the game just, gives you a suggestion of when to train a level, what quests to do and all of that, and actually like build a path for you, but not tell you exactly how to achieve it, right? Like just tell you, hey, you need to do this quest and that quest, but they don't tell you how to do those quests, right? So I think that would have been better, but overall, I think it's nice to actually aid new players into, exploring the game a bit more. The Fremennik Exiles, I mean, it's a solid quest. I think in terms of scaling, it's in a way the perfect sequel to all of to the other two Fremennik quests. Rather than just being a grandiose quest, and I quite enjoy that actually. It's much better and falls much more in line with how quests usually progress in RuneScape 3, RuneScape 2, and RuneScape 3, rather than just Dragon Slayer 1 and then just Dragon Slayer 2. It's like it's such a discrepancy, even though I love the quest again. But yeah, and then with it came Islands of Stone, which it's just a bland update. I mean, I guess you have Basilisk and the Basilisk show, and it makes this like super cool upgraded version of the Nade is Not Helm. But the island itself is kind of bland. I mean, I guess it's there, it's in tune with the Fremennik style, but I don't know. It doesn't really attract me, or it's not like I don't look at it to go like, oh, it's so cool, right? Nightmare of Ashihama. I think it's a solid PVM update. It's a pretty solid PVM challenge. I have no KC in it because I suck at the game. But overall, the rewards are also really nice. I do wish it was a bit more advertised, like the Chambers of Zarek, or the where is it, Theater of Blood, because I didn't even realize it had come into the game, and when I did, I was like, wait, this is an in-game boss? Like, I didn't even know it was an in-game boss at the end of the day, so I don't think that in terms of the setting and the build-up to the boss, it lacks a bit, but overall the boss itself, it looks sick, the rewards are good, right? Even though if very situational, so at the end of the day, it's really cool. Tinted it's splat, so it's just a solid update. I like this type of updates, just to make the game better. So this is a thing that people have been asking for ages, and this is a thing that clients like X clients have had for years at this point, which is basically if you don't eat someone, because before this every eat splat was the same color. It was either red or blue, or green if it was poison, or this murky green if it was venom. But with this, if you're not the one eating or getting hit, the splats are actually a bit darker to signify that it wasn't you getting hit or it wasn't you eating the monster. So I think it makes things much better, and especially when you're PVMing in groups, it's no longer that thing of, wait, did I actually get that hit or it was someone else? So I think overall it's just a good addition to the game. Next up, Sins of the Father. I have mixed feelings about this quest. While the quest itself is really nice, I don't feel like, because like this is supposed to be, I guess, in a way, or at least the way it was advertised, it was to be the Grandmaster quest, like Monkey Madness 2, Dragon Slayer 2 of Mauritania, right? Of Dark Mayor, and I didn't feel like it, to be honest. It just, yeah, it's nice what it unlocked and everything, and the quest itself it's nice, but compared again to RuneScape 3, I feel that it needs maybe another quest of building up, because I don't know, it doesn't feel enough in a way, right? And then Dark Mayor just, I mean, it's nice that it exists, but yeah, it's just sort of there again. Like compared to RuneScape 3, I don't find Dark Mayor that amazing personally. Um, Hallowed Sepulcher or Sepulcher. But it's a fucking crypt, right? Hallowed Crypt. I think it's honestly a solid update. It combines agility and thieving, and even though the rewards aren't that good, the rewards are specific for the update itself. So I think it's a nice little way of training agility and thieving. Mainly agility though. One thing that I'll say about this entire thing, Dark Mayor and everything, I do enjoy they get more XP because of the different essence. What I don't enjoy is the fact that there's a blood shard that you can get that basically makes the fury sap healing from depending on whatever hit you did while wearing it. That shit was one of the rewards again from selling, and people thought it was too OP, and now it's just in the game. Not to mention that it's a complete rip-off of the Blood Shard Fury from RuneScape 3. Well, it's straight up a fucking rip-off. But you know, I'll leave it at that. Next up, Death's Office. I think that this is an overall solid update. At the end of the day, it was needed. It's been years since people could just die, wait for an hour, the loot wouldn't appear to anyone, and unless you were in a dungeon, dying in the game was not punishing at all. So much so that some people were actually using that strategy to do certain PvM monsters alone, without actually, you know, many or much challenge. So I think that overall it was a required thing. Does it look as sick as in RuneScape 3? No. Does it look sick? Fuck yeah. Paying for stuff, it's much more cheaper than in RuneScape 3 for some reason. It feels like dying, it's not really a punishment, but I guess it's nice to be in the game. It was a nice change. Ferox Enclave. I don't know, I have mixed feelings about this one. It's nice what they wanted to do by substituting clan wars and all of that, but first of all, why put it in the middle of the wilderness? Secondly, I understand the pool and all of that because that's exactly what, you know, people used it for, but what's the fucking point of having that pool if you have a pool in your POH and at the same time the opposite is true? What's the fucking point of having a pool in your POH when you have one for free in the Ferox Enclave, right? I think that this Ferox Enclave could have been changed for perhaps, or substituted into two, basically a PVM hub and a PvP hub that actually reward you for doing PvP and PVM related things, rather than just, for the people that are rich enough, they have a POH, for the people that aren't, they just use Ferox Enclave. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of it, personally speaking. Mahogany Homes, just solid update. I fucking loved it. And I mean, it's a nice way of training construction and it gives more diversity to the skill, right? You don't just need to click like insane just to fucking do the skill. So overall, it's really nice. Only problem, it's called Mahogany Homes. When this update was released, I genuinely thought that it was just a cosmetic addition to your home. So you could actually change the style of the home to mahogany. I didn't actually think it was like a mini quest with a new way of training construction. I mean, it was so good that RuneScape 3 just copied it. That's how much people loved it. However, in RuneScape 3 it's called Construction Contracts, which I think is much better than calling it Mahogany Homes, personally, but, you know. Next I had a poor sign of interest. I don't know, like, I think, yeah, it's a nice quest to introduce new players to Slayer, but at the end of the day, I don't think that every skill needs a fucking quest to get introduced to it, I think, or to introduce players to that skill, and that's exactly what a poor sign of interest does. And then we have Spria, which honestly I quite like it. I think that having a Slayer Master in Drainer Village that is for more low level players is a nice addition to the game. You don't need to go all the way to Edgeville for Vanica or whatever. You actually have a Slayer Master near you, so you can actually discover Slayer, you know, in a much easier way than having to use guides or wiki or whatever. So I think that's pretty overall it's nice. I do wish that maybe it was in Lumbridge, right, and not behind the quest, but I guess it's nice. Getting ahead. Now, you might not know what this is because this is a quest. The name of this quest is a bit weird, and I mean, I even skipped it the first time I did a tier list because I didn't even realize it was a quest. But yeah, it's one of those quests. It's one of those quests that is like it's supposed to give more story to Zen, more stuff to do. But then again, it's not like an amazing quest. It's not a bad quest either. It's just sort of there. Okay, so Soul Wars. So I don't think this update should exist. Look, it's a minigame update with a fucking pet and all of that. All for what, really? Like, these people really want Soul Wars because at the end of the day, I think there's a difference between a minigame that people enjoy doing and a minigame that people have nostalgia for, right? RuneScape 3, Soul Wars in RuneScape 3 is fucking dead. Like, straight up fucking dead. There's not a single soul there, right? In old school, yeah, it's not dead, and maybe it never will be, right? But then again, tying first of all, a fucking pet to a piece of content is not something that I would do, because again, it's a fucking minigame. I don't generally like pets in minigames to begin with, and I guess it's nice to have an alternative to Nightmare Zone when it comes to imbuing things, but I 100% prefer Nightmare Zone to imbue shit than Soul Wars. Soul Wars just feels... I don't know, like... Do we really need to rehash content like that? I think that if you ask people, hey, if we were to grab from 2008 to 2012 updates, RuneScape 2, which updates you would want? I don't think that Soul Wars would be at the top of it all, to be honest. So, yeah. Shades of Morton. Now, for the people that have a keen eye, you'll say, wait, Shades of Morton was already in the game. True, except there was a sort of rework to the point where, I mean, it feels like a completely new release, right? New rewards, it made it way more straightforward. Overall, good update. I quite enjoy it. Next up, Isle of Souls. Or Isle of Souls, I guess. I guess it's a nice thing. You know, it's nice to explore the island. It's, you know, it's a nice place to hang out, ironically enough. And compared to Soul Wars, it does feel like it should be in the game. It's a nice place to just... Fuck. It's a nice place that just sort of exists, I guess. So, yeah. It's our challenges. I think this is bad, first of all, because it's not even fucking full-on challenges. These are more like defeat 1 Jad, defeat 2 Jads, defeat 3 Jads, defeat 4 Jads, 5 and 6. Those are all the challenges. While some players wanted this, I think it would have been better to just, make a specific like game mode in the Inferno for it or something like that, and to just release challenges with it. I don't know, like I think that at this point it's just padding content for no reason at all. It feels like especially 2021 was just padding, like 2020 and 2021 were just padding content into the game rather than having original content. Shooting stars. Any content that you need specific timings and just go to wikis and things like that to check where it is because it's the best XP per hour, I'm not a huge fan of, right? I wouldn't have a problem if Shooting Stars was like... Ironically enough, I wouldn't have a problem if Shooting Stars was like a minigame or something like that, but this is like a quote-unquote Destructions and Diversions, except it falls under the category of... Unlike Blue Scrolls, for example, you can do them whenever you want. You specifically need to wait for certain timings and whatnot. I'm not a huge fan of those types of contents, and I don't understand why this is in the game, quite honestly. Temporous, the fishing boss. Ironically enough, compared to the other two, Jagex didn't know how to make a skilling boss that it's actually a skilling boss and not a boss for a skill. I don't think that, again, the principle of earning more XP, doing a boss than doing the skill shouldn't apply, and this boss does give quite a nice amount of fishing XP compared to you know, fishing normally, while still getting loot. But at least with this boss, you don't actually get any loot. The only loot you get are the unique rewards the boss drops, and that's actually really fucking nice. So that's a nice touch, and that's why it's solid and not on good enough. Next up, below Ice Mountain, it's a nice quest. I would say yeah, I mean it's a good free-to-play quest. A lot of people were upset because it changed the free-to-play meta or whatever. The other day, I think it's a nice quest. Kandozal, yeah, it's there, I guess, with the quest. It's nothing amazing. It's just sort of there, I guess. Cleanse, something that people have been asking for fucking ages, and it finally came into the game. That's pretty much it. A Night in the Theater. They should have been here if it was. They should have been here if it was back when it was released. Jagex have reworked it a bit. It's not the Curse of the Black Stone like in RuneScape 3 for Elite Dungeons, which is quite a pretty cool quest. But it's nice. I guess it's a solid quest. Not actually, it's nice, but you know, it's there. I guess a Kingdom Divided. Okay, this is straight up solid. Not to say that it's absolute best. This is the type of fucking quest that Zaya was actually needing. It's an overall solid quest that is not exactly a Grandmaster quest, but it's a really nice fucking quest. Right, I mean, I guess, I don't know if it's actually considered Grandmaster or not. But, I mean, to me, it wasn't the Grandmaster quest. It was not on the level of Monkey Menace 2 or Dragon Slayer 2. But it was just nice. All of the rewards were really fucking cool, right? Especially the new spells to make the Arceus spellbook actually more useful overall and whatnot. So, all in all, I think it's overall fucking solid quest. Fazani's Nightmare. I think it's a bad update. This was more of a challenge a year before when the Nightmare was released, the Nightmare of Ashihama. This was basically a harder mode for a challenge of who could kill it the fastest, and you know those little challenges that Jagex does. And then Jagex just decided to actually fucking release it to the game, which pro tip, if you're gonna release hard mode of bosses, do so from the get-go and make it so the hard mode is the actual mode that you actually need to kill the boss in. Like in RuneScape 3, hard mode of bosses basically killing it solo with the actual mechanics that Jagex intended the bosses to have, while they release a normal mode for people that aren't quite good at PvM, but at the end of the day they can still enjoy killing the boss even if you're not gonna get the most unique rewards that the boss has to offer. That's the way to do hard mode bosses in my opinion. So if the Nightmare of Ashihama was like the normal mode, it's somewhat, I wouldn't say easy, but it's more accessible overall, and you know, then the Fazani's Nightmare is like the hard mode where it's like, it's the mode that actually gives you all of the orbs and things like that. That would have been nice. Like this, don't release it like this. Combat achievements, I have very mixed feelings about it. At the end of the day, combat achievements, I voted no to them for the simple fact that, first of all, I didn't think the rewards were actually that good, and nowadays the rewards are even worse because some of them did not pass the poll. Secondly, I don't like the way they did them. I think that I might make a full video about it later on, but at the end of the day, combat achievements, the way they were and the way they work, whenever they add a new boss and they add more achievements, you're gonna pretty much be forced to do that boss, which isn't a good thing. I mean, look, one of the reasons as to why people don't like the Music Cape and Quest Cape is because every time a new thing is released, you lose the accessibility to that cape. The reason why people don't like the Comp Cape in RuneScape 3, every time new content comes out, you don't get to enjoy the rewards, even though you already worked for it. You pretty much are forced to do every new content that comes into the game, right? Now, RuneScape 3 has grace period, and I think that combat achievements could have been done in a much easier way and much better way. Like, make specific challenges and achievements for every boss, and then the reward should be making the boss easier and more accessible. Like, for example, hey, get 10k see a giant mole, right? And now you get a locator, or you get a permanent light source, or something like that, where you don't actually need to do the achievement diaries to get it if you come to the achievement diaries, but you still get rewarded with things around the boss, right? I think that would have been a much better way of doing it, and because then even if you release a new boss, you just make the achievements for that specific boss. So I think that at the end of the day, Honestly, you know what? Fuck it. I think it's a bad fucking update. Actually, don't get me wrong. I think that the idea is there and it's really good to have combat achievements. The way they did it was just fucking disastrous, including the rewards. Who cares about a 5% increased chance drop rate of clue scrolls? Most people already fucking do it through imps if they want to grind clue scrolls. It's a completely useless um, it's a completely useless reward for PVM, even though most of the challenges are PVM related, right? Like maybe the reward should be more in tune with PVM. So I think that all in all, yeah, it's kind of bad. So all in all, I mean, the game has much better updates than worse ones. That's for fucking sure. It seems that overall updates have been pretty positive. However, I'll say this: it seems that first of all, earlier was actually much better in terms of updates than later towards the game. But at the same time, I do feel that nowadays Jagex is actually much more worried about balancing the game and whatnot, which is much harder than actually just releasing new content into the game. But it seems that the best type of content into the game are either just quests or stuff that is just like should make the game easier and whatnot. So at the end of the day, that's my tier list. Link in the description for you to do your one, and yeah, that's it.